Will La Liga stadiums surprise you? Spanish football is not just Bernabéu and Camp Nou. Atletico's stadium has a huge 360-degree screen. Several stadiums are under construction, and this list also includes venues we count among the strangest or steepest in the world. That is why we think La Liga stadiums may surprise you. In this video, we rank every stadium of the new La Liga season, from worst to best. There are arenas that Spanish fans mock because of their condition, and others that are admired around the world. Watch until the end to find out which stadium takes the title of the best one. Let's begin. StadiumDB.com presents La Liga EA Sports Stadium Ranking, Season 2026-2027. 20th place, Coliseum. Capacity, 10,500, Getafe CF. The smallest stadium in this ranking also has one of the strangest situations in the entire league. Getafe are playing in a stadium that is already being transformed. That makes the Coliseum difficult to judge. But if the redevelopment finally gives Getafe a more modern and compact football home, this may be the last time the Coliseum appears at the very bottom. 19th place, Estadio de Vallecas. Capacity, 14,708, Rayo Vallecano. Few stadiums in Spain are as tied to their neighborhood as Vallecas. Rayo's home is small and completely different from the polished arenas at the top of this list. In some ways, that is exactly its charm. But in La Liga terms, the limitations are obvious: low capacity, aging infrastructure. There is already serious discussion about a new or deeply rebuilt venue that would allow Rayo to grow without completely losing its connection to the neighborhood. 18th place, El Sardinero. Capacity, 22,514, Racing Santander. Racing Santander's return to the top flight immediately gives this stadium a new context. For years, El Sardinero felt like a venue from another era. The stadium has a pleasant setting, a respectable size, and a strong local identity, but it still feels like a ground waiting for its next big step. With Racing's fan base re-energized and bigger matches returning to Santander, the conversation around modernization and future expansion becomes much more interesting. 17th place, Estadio de Mendizorrotza. Capacity, 19,840, Deportivo Alavés. In Vitoria-Gasteiz, football still has a very local, grounded feel. Mendizorrotza is not spectacular, but it works. It gives Alavés a compact home, close to the pitch and closely connected to the city. The problem is that the stadium has not changed enough to keep pace with the more ambitious venues in La Liga. Its future has been discussed for years, and sooner or later, those plans will need to become something more concrete. 16th place, Estadio Manuel Martínez Valero. Capacity, 31,388, Elche CF. A stadium of more than 30,000 seats gives Elche a scale that many clubs of a similar sporting level do not have. Martínez Valero can feel surprisingly large, especially when the club is not enjoying one of its stronger periods. That size is both an advantage and a weakness. Recent improvement works help the stadium look more prepared for modern football, including changes to seats and the structure itself. 15th place, Abanca-Balaídos. Capacity, 22,904, Celta Vigo. Celta Stadium is one of the strangest long-term projects in Spanish football. Balaídos, opened in 1928, is still the club's home almost a century later. Marcador, Tribuna, and Rio have already changed the stadium, but the goal stand remains the key missing piece. But Vigo wants more. With A Coruña and Málaga stepping away from the 2030 World Cup race, the city still hopes Balaídos can become Galicia's bid. 14th place, Estadio La Rosaleda. Capacity, 30,778, Málaga CF. La Rosaleda is not a small provincial stadium. It is the historic football home of a major Andalusian city, placed in Martiricos, with memories of Champions League nights and a fan base that has stayed surprisingly strong through years of instability. Now the debate is more honest. Should La Rosaleda be rebuilt in its historic location, or should Málaga move towards a new stadium in Teatinos, near the university area? It is now the center of a real debate. 13th place, Estadi Ciutat de València. Capacity, 26,354, Levante. Levante Stadium is easy to underestimate because it shares a city with Mestalla. But Ciutat de Valencia is no longer just an older, modest ground. The 2020 renovation changed its character. The new roof, modern lighting, improved sound system, video screens, and Skycam infrastructure made it a much more complete stadium for television, spectators, and events. Levante have also worked to make the stadium useful beyond match days. 12th place, Abanca-Riazor. Capacity, 32,490. Deportivo La Coruña. Riazor is one of the most cinematic stadiums in Spain. It sits near the Atlantic, belongs to a club with a dramatic modern history, and still carries the memory of Deportivo's golden era. But the recent story around the stadium is not only romantic. A Coruña had been part of the 2030 World Cup conversation, but the city eventually withdrew. What the club and city need is a more realistic renovation, better infrastructure, better year-round use, and a stadium that works for a Coruña rather than against it. 11th place, RCD Stadium. Capacity, 37,776. Español. This stadium is one of the most complete modern venues in this part of the ranking. Technically, Español has a stadium that many Spanish clubs would gladly take. The question is whether the club uses its potential fully. Even after a record 2025-26 season, with an average of 28,646 spectators, the stadium was still some way below its full capacity. That gap says a lot about Español's situation. The club still needs stronger sporting momentum and a bigger regular crowd. We're almost at the top 10. Make sure to subscribe and share this video with La Liga fans you know. So, where are Real Madrid and Barcelona in this list? Let's keep going. 10th place, Estadio de la Cerámica. Capacity, 21,332. Villarreal CF. Villarreal's stadium makes sense for the club, the city, and the local economy. La Cerámica is small by LaLiga standards, but the renovation turned that limitation into a strength. The stadium was modernized for around 50 million euros, received a new roof, a much sharper exterior, and a facade that directly refers to Villarreal's ceramic industry. The rebuilt Fondo Sur area also added a public square for club events and fan activity, making the stadium more useful outside match days. This stadium is unique in terms of its appearance, which earned it a place in our video about the strangest stadiums in Europe. 9th place, Estadio Ramón Sánchez Pizjuán. Capacity, 43,751. Sevilla FC. In 9th place is a stadium with a typically Mediterranean feel, similar to Mestalla or Benito Villamarín. Sevilla's stadium remains one of Spain's classic football grounds, but the club already knows that tradition alone is no longer enough. A much bigger step will soon be needed. The current Sánchez Pizjuán has history, yet it is no longer modern enough commercially. That is why the redevelopment plan matters. Capacity around 55,000, full roof, better access, more commercial space, and a new public plaza near Gol Sur. 8th place, Estadio El Sadar. Capacity, 23,516. Osasuna. Osasuna turned El Sadar into one of the most effective small stadiums in Spain. The redevelopment, known as Muro Rojo, added a new upper ring on 3 sides, new seats, hospitality areas, and a much stronger red roof. The goal was not only comfort, but pressure, steeper stands, a tighter bowl, and a stadium that feels heavier than its capacity suggests, especially on intense match days in Pamplona. Importantly, the project also strengthened the club's visual identity instead of replacing it. The project was recognized internationally when El Sadar won the 2021 Stadium of the Year award. 7th place, Estadio Mestalla. Capacity, 49,419. València CF. Mestalla is outdated, but almost impossible to replace. Its biggest weapon is the steepness of the stands. The stadium is widely known as one of the steepest major football grounds in Europe. That vertical design makes the crowd feel stacked almost directly above the pitch. It is not modern, comfortable, or commercially efficient, but it still creates pressure in a way many new stadiums cannot. With new Mestalla finally moving again, the old ground may be close to its final years. It will be a shame to lose it, partly because of how steep its stands are, a feature that earned it a place in our video about the steepest stadiums in the world. 6th place, Estadio Anoeta. Capacity 40,177. Real Sociedad. At the stadium placed just outside the top 5, Real Sociedad removed the running track, excavated and lowered the pitch, and extended the lower seating rows along both touchlines closer to the grass. 3 sides of the stadium were then joined more tightly at the lower level, while the rebuilt north stand completed the new football layout. It turned a former athletic-style venue into a much more intense, compact football ground. The reopened stadium immediately changed the numbers. In the 2025-26 La Liga season, Sociedad finished 10th below expectations, securing just 46 points and ending with a negative goal difference. 5th place, Spotify Camp Nou. Capacity 62,652. FC Barcelona. It is Barcelona's home again, but not yet the finished stadium promised by the redevelopment. The club comes in as Spanish champion, so the return to Camp Nou has a sporting weight as well as a construction one. With 62,652 seats available, the stadium is already large by La Liga standards, but still far from its final shape. The familiar open bowl is now mixed with new hospitality spaces, rebuilt circulation areas, and visible work around the upper parts of the ground. The key unfinished elements are the completion of the 3rd tier, the future roof, and the final 105,000-seat layout planned for the new Camp Nou. 4th place, Estadio La Cartuja. Capacity 70,000. Real Betis. Estadio La Cartuja gives La Liga a very different kind of venue. It was built for the 1999 World Championships in athletics, but after the latest renovation, it is no longer defined by the old running track. The pitch was lowered, the athletics layout disappeared, turning La Cartuja much more clearly towards football. For Real Betis, it has become a temporary home while Benito Villamarín is being rebuilt, so the stadium suddenly carries regular league football instead of mainly finals and Spain matches. 3rd place, Estadio San Mamés. Capacity 53,000. Athletic Bilbao. San Mamés is the modern version of one of Spanish football's most recognizable stadium identities. Athletic Club did not move far from the old ground, and that matters. The new stadium still feels tied to the same part of Bilbao and to the idea of La Catedral. Architecturally, it stands out as one of La Liga's most coherent venues, with a compact, clearly defined form that makes it easily recognizable within the urban landscape. Its distinctive exterior ensures the stadium remains a prominent landmark in Bilbao, especially after dark. Inside, however, the key features are the steep stands, which can become too cramped, and the short distance to the pitch. The red seats make the stadium burst with color, so even when it is empty, it still feels full of energy. It is certainly one of the most distinctive arenas in Europe. 2nd place, Riyadh Air Metropolitano. Capacity 70,692. Atlético de Madrid. Riyadh Air Metropolitano is Atlético Madrid's home of the post-Calderón era, but the stadium itself has a longer and more unusual story. It grew out of La Peineta, an athletics venue whose old main stand was kept and absorbed into a completely rebuilt football stadium. That explains its distinctive shape. One side still carries the memory of the earlier structure, while the rest of the bowl was designed around Atlético's move in 2017. The roof, covering more than 46,000 square meters, gives the stadium its most recognizable external line and helps close a venue that otherwise sits in a much more open part of Madrid. Since the Riyadh Air naming deal, the stadium has also become a clearer symbol of Atlético's commercial growth, with wide access areas, large hospitality zones, and a capacity now above 70,000. Adding to its prestige is the 360-degree screen inside the Stadium Bowl, which proved decisive in moving this venue one place higher in the ranking compared with last year. 1st place, Estadio Santiago Bernabéu. Capacity 78,297. Real Madrid. Santiago Bernabéu is the most spectacular example of how a traditional football stadium can be turned into a year-round venue without leaving its old location. The rebuilt exterior, metallic skin, retractable roof, and 360-degree screen changed the image of the stadium almost completely, while the pitch system became the most technical part of the project. The grass can be divided into sections and lowered into an underground storage area, allowing the stadium to host other events without destroying the playing surface. That idea, however, has also brought problems. Concerts were supposed to be a major part of the new Bernabéu model, but noise complaints from local residents forced Real Madrid to heavily restrict them. At the same time, the stadium has already hosted major non-football events, including Pope Leo's meeting with the Madrid diocesan community. With the 2030 World Cup approaching, Bernabéu is also one of the strongest candidates to host the final. Will Camp Nou deserve first place once it is completed? Join the discussion in the comments. New rankings and stadium profiles will be published soon, but that's all for today. See you next time.